and welcome to another episode of Selling for Creatives Live here on LinkedIn and YouTube, where we're talking about how to sell in a way that actually feels good and actually works. I just want to make sure that everything is working properly. I see that as of right now. Let me know if you can hear me. It seems that you cannot see me, so give me a second here to fix that right up. And we are going to get into it. We haven't done one of these in quite some time, so really excited to jump back in over here. Really excited to jump back in over here and get the ball rolling. I'm going to tell you guys, like, this is just super exciting. Give me a second. I'll be right back. Okay. Let me know if you can hear me. That would be awesome. I'd love to know that everything is working as it should. It seems like there's an issue with the camera. Okay, so we're going to fix that technical difficulty. In the meantime, you can drop in the comments where you're tuning in from. What's something you usually say at the end of a sales call to close it? But in the meantime, I just want to make sure that everything's working well. Okay. Try this again. Not picking up my video. That's the question. Hello? Okay. It seems like you guys can hear me. Correct me if I'm wrong. Hello. You guys can hear me. Correct me. Can you see me? Is anybody here as of right now? That's the big question. I see that there are a few people in the room. Okay, I can see when it's minimized. Yeah, I apologize, guys. It's been a while, so just trying to figure this out and see what is going on. Why is it not allowing for layout to properly work? That's the question right now I'm trying to figure out. Okay, at least you can see me, even though this isn't really what we're shooting for. We would like you to see this in full screen. I'm not really sure why. It seems like for whatever reason, isn't allowing me seen classic way that I should be. Interesting. Oh, got it. Boom. Okay, 11 minutes in. Okay, well, at least we're here. And we are ready to rock and roll now that you can see me properly. Not really sure why that didn't work in the way that it should have, but at the very least, now you can see me and hear me, I believe. Okay. Great. So we are finally actually live. So what we're going to do from here, I'm going to welcome you again to the Selling for Creatives live stream, where we talk about how to sell in a way that actually feels good and how it actually works. So this is a chill interactive space. I'm going to be doing a Q&A towards the end for anybody who's here, and we might even have time for a hot seat if someone's feeling brave. If you've got any questions as we go, drop them in the chat at any time, whether you are on YouTube, whether you're on LinkedIn. I am keeping my eye on the chat. And stick around. I mean, at the end, there's going to be a quick offer if you want help applying this. And what I will say is drop in the chat where you're coming from, where are you tuning in from, I should say. What's something that you usually say at the end of a sales call to close it? And I'm going to start with a story. I used to think that closing meant convincing people. This is way back in the day. And I thought that I had to say the right thing, lead the client to a yes, walk them through their fears, until I realized that something weird was happening. The less that I said, the faster people said yes. And the reason that is because when you take the pressure off, you give the buyer room to decide for themselves whether or not this is something that interests them. Okay, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Yaacov Steinberg. I'm a sales coach for creatives, helping agency and solopreneurs land high-value clients without having to feel like a salesperson. So when I first started this almost 6 years ago now, I saw that creative agency owners and solopreneurs are amazing at their craft, but they run into two common struggles: feast or famine sales. So they would get clients, but it would be inconsistent. One month they are booked solid, the next they're scrambling for leads, or selling just feels awkward. They don't want to sound pushy. Being nice isn't exactly helping them either. And they're great at what they do, but not having that clear sales process is holding them back. They're stuck working project to project, relying on word of mouth, and just hoping for the best. And the shift that I'm making with them isn't just in understanding how to sell, it's in learning how to position themselves so clients come to them. Mastering sales without feeling salesy, clarifying their offer and their sales process, and building real confidence in how they sell. So I'm helping them go from I hate selling, it feels awkward, to I have a simple, repeatable process that works. I'm waiting for referrals to I know exactly how to generate demand for my work. And I've had the absolute pleasure of coaching some incredible creatives and entrepreneurs, including Chaya Fishman, Hoodie Greenberger, and Ellie Bosch, just to name a few pretty well-known personalities, at least on LinkedIn, excuse me. And the agencies and seven-figure business owners that I've been able to work with have been able to grow even 50% in the first 60 days of working with me. $100,000 level businesses, it's even been 150% growth in even 60 to 90 days. And solopreneurs just starting out, it's been even 200, 240% in as little as 45 days. And I always tell people that it really brings my three passions together: sales, teaching, and helping people. They're not necessarily in that order. And for those of you who are new here, for those of you that are watching this for the first time, the reason that I give over that last minute and a half is because what we call the context pitch is really important for people to really lean into what it is that you're going to say, as opposed to tuning out. And if we don't give people a reason to actually lean in, then they have no reason to listen to anything that we're going to say. And while we move right into the teaching, that's exactly why they're there. So today we're going to talk about the power of the silent close. And let's be honest, most of us feel pressure to do something at the end of a call to close the deal, as it were. But sometimes what you don't say is so much more powerful. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to go through the silent close framework, as it were. Okay, it's got three parts to it. Super simple. There's no amazing mind-blowing, ideas over here. It's really just going to be quite simple. Now, right before I jump into this, I really just want to check for a minute here what's going on in the chat on LinkedIn, as I actually have to do that manually since that doesn't show up on Riverside. Although on YouTube, I can see the chat in Riverside itself. LinkedIn, if anybody from your team is watching this, that's something that needs to be worked on together with Riverside. Thanks. Anyways, okay, so let's get into this. The first part of the framework, when we're talking about the silent close framework, is ask, and then, for lack of a better way of saying it, just shut up. Right? Most people ask, and then they immediately keep talking. How about instead you try this? How does that sound? And stop talking. Let the client process. Don't fill the silence. Let them think out loud. Right? A lot of times in sales, we talk about the idea that whoever talks first loses. Right? And a lot of people misunderstand that concept. But over here, when we're talking about the idea of helping someone to move forward, when you make the ask, just be quiet. Okay, that's going to be the first idea within this framework. The second idea is going to be to use reflection instead of persuasion. Okay, and what I mean by that is, instead of pushing the value, reflect on what was already said. Okay, and again, this boils down to active listening within the conversation, really truly understanding what's being said. So taking copious notes would definitely help within this process, but you can easily mention, if you don't mind, earlier in the call, you mentioned that you've been wanting to get out of the feast or famine cycle. Do you feel like something like this would help with that? All right, now what we're doing here isn't selling. You're helping them to connect the dots out loud. Right? And many people within sales in general, whether you're a business owner or not, fail to understand that so many people, when they are within a sales process, when they're on a call, there's a lot of information being passed around. And ultimately what happens is, as you're going through that process, it's really difficult as a client listening to this new information, this new reframe that you've given them about how you're going to help them to move forward. They need to process that information. They need to connect the dots, how it's going to help their particular situation, right? So the question that what we're doing here is we're helping them to do that together with us out loud, as opposed to continuing to push, okay? Now, that being said, the third idea within this framework is to invite clarity instead of commitment, okay? So many people, when they are trying to close people, are trying to get a commitment from somebody. When what that would sound like is, so are you ready to move forward? Right? And what that triggers within a potential buyer is tension, right? Especially those within the creative space will recognize this idea, because as many of us within the creative space are introverts. We get very uncomfortable with people pushing us in different ways. And, I had someone today, I sent a message to someone, and the way that I did it, they just loved it. They said, wow, that is, I think I would love to just tell you exactly the wording that they said. That is a great non-pitch, right? I didn't say anything that was crazy, but I just spoke the truth out loud without saying, hey, let's have a conversation. I was being human within the process, right? So don't trigger people by trying to get them to commit. Are you ready to move forward? Instead, try to say something like, hey, would you want to walk through what a next step could look like? Totally fine either way. I just want to see if that actually fits for what you're looking for. That is very light, right? It doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel like you're pushing. There's no pressure, but it'll get you there so much faster, right? And the idea is very simple. When you lead the call with presence instead of pressure, you build trust, you give space, and often they'll even close themselves. Right, so I'm going to move into a real life example of how this played a role with one of my own clients. But while I share that story, please take a second, drop your questions in the chat. Where do you feel like maybe you lose momentum at the end of a sales call? Do you have a script that you use that maybe feels a little awkward? I'm happy to do it right here on the call. You could just put it into the chat. We could do it live. If you want to jump into the hot seat, you could just let me know. In the meantime, I'm going to drop this idea into the chat so that whoever is interested can jump in on this idea and put in their thoughts. But either way, we're going to jump into that story right now. Okay, awesome. Okay, let's do it. So what happened was I had a client a little while back who kept trying to wrap up calls with urgency. So would you like to move forward is essentially what this person kept saying. And people would freeze, right? They would delay. They would say, let me think about it. And the reason is simple. As I just explained, what happens when we do this is we cause tension. We make people feel like you're trying to make a decision for them as opposed to them making the decision themselves. And that makes people very uncomfortable. Nobody likes the idea of someone else making decisions for them. Every single person would rather, just checking to make sure the chat on LinkedIn, how it's going. Every person would rather make decisions for themselves, right? Who wants someone else to make decisions for them? So ultimately what we changed was two things. We let silence do the work and we swapped out the question, right? And instead that client now says, hey, it sounds like this checks a lot of boxes. What do you feel like your next step is, right? And that comment is a very interesting comment because ultimately what it's doing is you're not really pushing anybody. You're effectively asking them what they feel is going because they're going to tell you what they feel they're at within the conversation, right? So all of a sudden, boom, they're talking themselves into the yes. They're telling you what they feel the next step should be, what that looks like. And listen, if they're not ready, great. So there's no reason for them to, walk themselves into the close, right? This is not meant to, no sales should be manipulative where you're trying to, move people through a process that they're not ready for, right? We only want someone to move forward when they're truly ready for it, right? And I think that's important to point out because ultimately at the end of the day, the reason this works is because the secret, not such a secret. If someone already sees the value, you don't need to push them. You just need to pause long enough to allow them to process that this is something that they want, that this is something that they really could benefit from. You really don't need to do more than that, right? And I think it's extremely important for us to remember as salespeople, as business owners, that at the end of the day, we're really not trying to move people to a close. We're really just trying to serve people, right? And it's important for us to keep that in mind, to remember that as we go through that process. So again, I didn't see anybody within the chat. I'm going to check one more time to see if anybody would like to, put anything into the chat for us to go over today. Otherwise, I do realize that today was a little bit more first time back in, and the video wasn't working right in the beginning. So a lot of people might not have made it this far. I do see that there are some people still live with us on LinkedIn and on YouTube. But if you want help making your sales calls smoother, I promise at the beginning there would be a nice offer to help you to be able to move things forward. If you want your calls to be smoother, simpler, and way less stressful, I'm happy to have a conversation with you. Usually when it comes to the live shoots, what I've done in the past is I kept a few spots for one-on-one clarity calls specific to the live. If someone reaches out to me telling me, hey, I saw the live on YouTube, on LinkedIn, whether you were on the actual live or you saw it afterwards, I'll make time in order to have a conversation. Usually it's more than just the regular, time that they can book on my calendar. We'll break down your current sales flow and rebuild it around you. There's no pushy tactics. There's no fake urgency, just real strategy that works for you and how you like to sell. So feel free to DM me the word silent after this. You can drop it live here in the chat. I'm happy to reach out afterwards, or you could just send me a DM, whatever is simpler for you. But with this, it seems like we are going to call it a day here. Again, first live back, really excited about this one. So hopefully this will, we're going to be doing this every other week. So twice a month. I'm looking forward to jumping on live here. I wish every single one of you a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sticking together with me till the end here. And take care and have an amazing rest of your day.